I think we do. Hello, what's your age?
26.
Okay, why don't you support trans kids?
So I wouldn't say that I, blanket don't support trans kids. Okay. In both their social and medical transition. So, I mean, when it comes to social transition, I think that there's a version of that I'm okay with. Um, but I would say, like, for example, if a kid in a public school respectfully, and you may not think this is possible, but respectfully and intentionally misgenders another kid, that kid should not get punished for that.
Where are they getting punished for that?
No, I'm not. The question isn't why don't I like how trans kids are being supported. It's why don't I support trans kids being supported in their social and medical transitions, right? So I'm addressing the question and not like making a commentary on how things are right now.
Well, wait, you just said that specifically. You said that um, you don't think a kid should be punished for misgendering another kid. But I'm asking, where is this happening that they are being punished for misgendering other kids?
Yeah, exactly. So you're asking me to back up a claim that I didn't make, right?
What do you mean? I'm just asking if it's a thing that's happening.
Oh, you're asking if it's a thing that's happening, or you're asking where
Yes.
it's happening?
Is it a thing that's happening?
Not that I know of,
Okay.
but I don't know that it's not happening either. I haven't looked into whether that's happening or not. I'm just clarifying my position. What's your
That
position on that?
that is not happening.
Okay. Um, what's your position on it as a? Do you think that should happen? Do you think that kids should be punished for intentionally misgendering in a respectful
Intentionally
way?
misgendering? Yes.
That's what I said, right? I
You
said
can't you
I don't
can't
know.
intentionally misgender it in a respectful way. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, okay. So you don't. So you don't think that's possible? Okay.
Yes.
So do you think that um do you think that like a boy is a person that uses the sound boy to describe themselves?
Do I think a boy is someone who uses the sound boy to describe themselves? I
Yeah.
don't know what that question
Or
is
what do you
asking.
think a boy?
What
What
is
do you
that?
think a boy is?
What do I think a boy is? Anyone whose
Yeah.
gender identity lines with their social schema of young males.
What do you mean by social schema?
Social schemas are the ways that our brains categorize different members of society. So, specifically, the associations our brains make with things. In this regard, it would be the associations our brains make with males, specifically young males.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that a boy is somebody who um so you're saying that everybody has like a category that or some people have a category that they call boy, and that category is made up of associations with the male sex, right?
That would be, yes, boy would be made up of associations with the male sex, yes.
Okay.
Specifically,
And so you're
association
saying
with the
that,
young male sex.
right, okay. And so you're saying that somebody who, when they are categorizing themselves, they put themselves in that category, that's a boy, right?
If their gender identity aligns with that category. For instance, I
Is
make
that
associate.
different than
I
what I said?
have no. That's that. Yes, that's different than what you said. For instance, I have associations in my brain with what females are, right? So my
Yep.
brain makes schemas based on what females are, but I don't associate. I don't have a gender identity that aligns with that association. So therefore, I'm not a woman. But if somebody has a gender identity that aligns with that association, they would be that thing.
To you, right? Because
to
you're the one making
themselves.
those associations, right?
The only person that can make a claim about what your identity is you. Somebody else can't make a claim on your identity.
I can't identify people.
You cannot make a claim on someone else's identity, no. You can make assumptions about what you assume their identity is, but you cannot make a claim of their identity.
So when you say their identity, there's kind of there's a bit of a language thing going on there because there's two kind of senses of that word that we're using, and we're conflating them. And the issue is that they're actually separate. So there's identity in terms of how I identify myself, and then there's identity in terms of who I am. And those don't have to be the same. If I say that I'm identical to the second person that my mom gave birth to, right? Which I have an older brother, so he's the first. So that means that those two things are identical. They're the same. They're just two ways
I'm sorry.
to
What do you
refer to
think? What
the
do you
same.
think identity is?
And so I'm answering that right now, actually, right? So the thing about language is that words can have multiple meanings or multiple senses, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
you
That's
have
why I
one
asked you what you
definition.
think it is.
Yeah, and I'm giving you the two different senses that I think that are applicable here. And
Wait,
so
can you
one
just
sense,
provide a definition for the word?
yeah, so I'm doing that. So one sense is the identity of anything, doesn't have to be a person. The identity of anything is what that thing is. All of the information combined about that thing, right? All of the true information about that thing. Okay? The other sense of the word is how a person identifies themselves. Self-identification.
Yeah, no, I would agree more with the first one, but when you said the phrase "the truth of what that is," I would disagree. I would say that that language doesn't really work in terms of an identity because an identity doesn't have like a universal truth. For instance, if I identify like if somebody is my friend and they identify that way, right? What I view as a friend may not be what you view as a friend, but that doesn't make them any less my friend.
So yeah, this is where we're combining the two meanings of the word, right? So on the one hand, you want to say that when somebody speaks certain words about themselves, that is their identity. You're 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 taking the act of having a view on oneself, and you're conflating that with the the true information about oneself.
What?
Okay. So if I mean, do you understand the word self-identification? That's a word. That's a word in the English language.
Yeah.
What do you think that
Sure.
word means?
Self identification would just be to personally make aware characteristics or qualities about yourself. You're
Make aware.
identifying. You're right. It's just a word I'm using to try to explain it without using the word in the definition. But you're
Sure.
identifying specific qualities or characteristics about yourself.
You're attributing certain characteristics or qualities to yourself,
Sure.
right? And those you can attribute any qualities or characteristics to yourself, right? You don't have to have those characteristics or qualities. They don't have to be part of your true identity.
What do you mean when you say true identity?
The true information about you.
What is true in regards to gender?
In regards to gender, um, so I don't think that there's an objective. I don't think that genders are objective categories. What I mean by that is, I think that I agree with you that genders are like I have a concept of what a woman is, and that's a bunch of associations that I make with the female sex. I agree with you on that. And so if I were to attribute the characteristic of those associations, right? Whether it's um, you could having feminine attributes, whatever, like whatever those associations are. If I attribute those to myself, if I say I have those, I match that category, then that would mean that I identify as a woman, right? But that wouldn't. It doesn't make sense to say that makes me in any objective sense a woman. It doesn't make me objectively a woman. There's no such thing as, in this way of thinking about things, there's no such thing as like having an objective sense of what a woman is.
I would agree.
Right. So then you cannot say that because I identify myself that way, that I am objectively that thing. Right? If somebody else comes along, they have different associations. I don't match those associations. They can say I'm not a woman, and
No, I think they can say they're
those
not a
two
woman. I don't think they can. I
identifications
don't think they can make a
are
claim for another person.
those two identifications are on equal footing, because both of those categories, right? Both of those sets of associations are both subjective. There's nothing objective about those. So to say that I'm at the same to say you can't, it's a contradiction. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that at the same time there's no objective definition of what a woman is. There's no objective set of associations made with the female sex, and say that if somebody thinks that they match their own subjective category of woman, that they are objectively a woman. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, again, I don't think you can make a claim on someone else's identity. I just feel like
So yes, you
you're
can.
not.
You can't you
No, I
can't
don't
make a
think you
claim on
can.
their self identification, but you can make a claim on their identity.
Wait, I fully disagree.
You can't say no. Like, my name is Rafi, so someone couldn't really come up to me and say, no, Rafi, you don't think you're a man. That wouldn't make sense. But they could say, Rafi, you're not a man,
Based on what?
based on their associations with the male sex, because they have their associations and I have mine, and it's really that simple. I don't like this is not this is like basic. I know it is philosophy, but like it's not that. Some people are calling me a Philbro or whatever. Like, it's not that hard. It's either an objective category or it's not. Like, you can't. You're not. Yeah. So
I don't think I agree with you here.
why?
Yeah, when we talk about somebody having a gender identity is something that exists like in your brain. Like we can specifically see the part of your brain that lights up when you're feeling things like gender euphoria, for example. So how can another person make a claim on what your brain is doing and how your brain is identifying itself?
So
They can make a claim based on like what they view the definition of man and woman to be, sure, but like look at the human language. The human language is not a definitive language. It's a descriptive language. English is a descriptive language.
okay, what I'm saying is um, that, yeah, I agree that you can't. It doesn't make sense for someone to tell me that I don't identify as a man. I do identify as a man. So I agree with that.
Okay. So I'm confused what the
The contention is that even though someone, it wouldn't make sense for someone to. I mean, in theory, I could be lying, right? I would have no reason to, but I could be lying. So they could say, oh well, you say that you identify as a man, but really you don't. But no, what I'm saying is that they can identify me in the same way that I can identify myself. They can identify me, and they can identify me according to their associations with the male sex. right?
No.
Why not?
They can make assumptions, but it is not what you're they're not they can't make an objective claim about your own identity.
I never said it was objective, right? I never said it was objective. I'm saying it's based on their subjective associations with the male sex. It's not. I'm not saying somebody can tell you who you really are. I'm saying if gender is subjective, then my subjective view of myself and your subjective view of me are on equal footing. You just can't have it both ways, though.
What? Homie, I don't feel like you're being cohesive currently.
Okay, how?
Well, again, you keep making this claim that someone can claim that you are something else based on what they view that thing to be.
They can claim that. Yeah, that is, and that is. I'm not saying they're going to be objectively right or wrong. I'm saying that that would be a subjective claim. Would you agree with
But
that?
yeah, but what does it matter what somebody else claims you to be?
But what I'm saying is that okay, but that's like you're saying that that's someone else can do that, right? They can categorize me according to their concept of man and woman, right? They can say I have these associations with the male sex, and I have these other associations with the female sex, and looking at me and interacting with me, whatever, that they they think I match more closely with their associations with the female sex, so they would say I'm a woman, right? In their world, in their subjective concept of what a woman is, I match that more to them, right? Whereas in my world, right, I would match more the associations. Maybe if I give an example, that would help.
Okay.
All right. So let's say that I have the subjective association that that beards are, I associate that very strongly with the male sex, right? And let's say that for some reason, somebody else really strongly associates having a beard with the female sex. Okay? Because these categories are subjective, it doesn't probably a better example would be like color of clothing. So that's something that does actually like vary from culture to culture.
Um. Okay. Really quickly though, somebody did pay to boot you, so sorry. Shout out to Hunter. Uh, Hunter wanted to boot the guest. But again, real quick, and I was going to say this, but like my definition of gender involves personal schema, not my definition of like what a woman is and what a man is. It was personal schema, not societal schemas. I need water.